Growing up, I thought my parents were the definition of true love. If there was a storybook romance in real life, it was theirs. My mom, Grace, was the kind of woman everyone admired, warm, patient, and full of laughter that could make even the coldest day feel like summer. My dad, Daniel, was strong, dependable, and the most caring father a daughter could ask for. People in our small town used to say, if you want to know what real love looks like, just look at Daniel and Grace. And honestly, I believed them. From as far back as I can remember, my parents were inseparable. They held hands in the grocery store, danced in the kitchen when their favorite song came on, and left little notes for each other on the fridge like teenagers in love. Every Valentine's Day, Dad would show up at home with a bouquet of Mom's favorite lilies, and Mom would bake his favorite chocolate pie in return. It was their thing. Their love wasn't just something I saw, it was something I felt every single day. As a kid, I loved bragging about them to my friends. When other kids complained about their parents fighting or not getting along, I felt lucky. My parents never fought. At least, not in front of me. If they disagreed on something, they'd talk it out behind closed doors and come back smiling like nothing happened. But the truth is, looking back now, I realized that maybe that was the first red flag. Real couples fight, right? Real couples don't hide everything behind perfect smiles. Still, I didn't think about that at the time. I just saw two people completely devoted to each other, and it gave me hope. It made me believe in love, the kind that lasts forever. But forever is a funny word. You grow up thinking it means something unbreakable, something you can depend on. But forever, I've learned, can shatter in a single moment. It was the summer before college when everything started to change. I had just graduated high school, and life felt exciting. I was packing my things, preparing to leave the little town I had known all my life for a big city college. Mom was emotional about it, of course. She cried when we went shopping for dorm essentials, and Dad teased her about how she was going to survive without her little girl. We laughed. We took pictures. We made memories. And then came the attic. Our house was old, and the attic was one of those places nobody ever really went into unless absolutely necessary. It was dusty, cramped, and smelled like mothballs and forgotten time. But Mom asked me to go up there to find an old suitcase we could use for college move-in day. So, one afternoon, while they were out in the garden, I climbed up the narrow wooden steps and pushed open the creaky attic door. Sunlight streamed through a small window, illuminating the dust particles floating in the air. The place was cluttered with boxes, old Christmas decorations, childhood toys, and family photo albums stacked on shelves. I found the suitcase easily enough, but as I was about to leave, something caught my eye. A box. Not just any box, it was different from the others. Most boxes up there were labeled neatly: winter clothes, baby stuff, books. But this one, it had no label. It was shoved into the farthest corner, behind a broken rocking chair, like someone had gone out of their way to hide it. And here's the thing, I'm curious by nature. Maybe too curious for my own good. So, I put the suitcase down and crawled over to it. The box was covered in a thin layer of dust, but it wasn't sealed with tape like the others. Just a simple cardboard flap. I hesitated for a moment. Something in me said, don't open it. But another part of me, the bigger, louder part, said, it's probably just old photos. What's the harm? So, I opened it. Inside were letters. Dozens of them, tied together with a red ribbon that had faded with time. The envelopes were yellowed, the handwriting elegant but unfamiliar. And then, I saw the name on the first letter. It wasn't my dad's name. It was another man's name entirely. My heart skipped a beat. Confusion washed over me. Maybe these were letters from before Mom met Dad? That had to be it. Everyone has a past, right? But then, I saw the dates. And that's when the ground beneath my feet began to crack. The letters weren't old. They weren't from decades ago. They were from the last 5 years. 5 years. During all the time I believed my parents were living the perfect love story. During all those kitchen dances and Valentine's Day lilies. My mom had been writing letters to another man. I sat there frozen, my hands trembling as I untied the ribbon. Part of me didn't want to read them. Part of me wanted to put everything back, close the box, and pretend I never saw it. But I couldn't. Because something deep inside me knew. This was going to change everything. My hands shook as I pulled out the first letter from the box. The paper felt fragile, as if it had been hiding secrets too heavy for its thin frame to bear. I unfolded it carefully, and as my eyes scanned the words, my heart sank deeper with every sentence. My love, it began. Those 2 words, just 2 simple words, were enough to make me feel like the floor of the attic had disappeared beneath me. My love. She wasn't writing to Dad. She wasn't writing to a friend. She was writing to someone she loved. I read on, my pulse pounding in my ears. I wish I could see you tonight, but Daniel is home early. He suspects nothing, but I hate sneaking around like this. Every time I look at him, I feel guilty. And yet, when I think about you, all I feel is alive. I dropped the letter like it had burned me. My mom. My mom. The woman who kissed my dad goodbye every morning, who told me stories about how they met in high school and were soulmates from day one. She was having an affair. I felt sick. My stomach churned as I reached for another letter, desperate for answers but terrified of what I'd find. The next one was dated a year later. I can't stop thinking about you. Sometimes I wonder what life would be like if we ran away together. But then I look at Emily, and I know I can't leave her. She's my world, and she deserves better than this mess. Emily. That's me. I don't even know how to describe the feeling that hit me in that moment. It was like 1,000 emotions crashing into each other inside my chest. Rage, confusion, sadness, betrayal. My mom wasn't just lying to my dad. She was lying to me. Every time she hugged me and told me we were a happy family, every time she told me I could always trust her, was it all fake? I sat there for what felt like hours, reading letter after letter. Each one was worse than the last. They talked about secret meetings, about how much they missed each other, about the life they wished they could have if things were different. And then I saw his name. Michael. That was the man. Michael. Whoever he was, he had been in my mom's life for at least 5 years. 5 years of pretending. 5 years of lies. I felt like screaming, but I couldn't. My throat was dry, my voice trapped somewhere deep inside me. All I could do was sit there, clutching the letters, my tears dripping onto the faded ink. I wanted to march downstairs and confront her. I wanted to throw the letters in her face and demand answers. But something stopped me. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was the realization that once I said something, there would be no going back. Our perfect family, the love story I grew up believing in, would be over. So instead, I put the letters back in the box, tied the ribbon, and shoved it into the corner where I found it. I wiped my face, grabbed the suitcase I had come for, and went downstairs like nothing happened. But everything had changed. When I saw Mom in the kitchen, humming softly as she stirred a pot of spaghetti sauce, I felt cold. Like I didn't even know who she was anymore. She looked up and smiled at me, her eyes full of warmth and love, and all I could think was, "How many times have you lied to us?" "Find the suitcase?" she asked. "Yeah," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. She didn't notice. She just kept stirring, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the letters playing over and over in my mind. Who was Michael? Did Dad know? Did he have any idea that the woman he adored was in love with someone else? And the worst part? A small, ugly voice in the back of my head whispered, "What if they get divorced? What if this destroys everything?" I didn't sleep a single minute. By the time morning came, I had made a decision. I had to find out the truth. The next day, I started watching her. Not in an obvious way, just little things. The way she smiled at her phone sometimes, the way she slipped out to run errands, and came back an hour later looking different, brighter, lighter. I wanted to believe it was nothing, but the letters didn't lie. She was still in contact with him. I could feel it. So, I did something I never thought I'd do. I followed her. She said she was going to the grocery store, so I grabbed my car keys and waited 5 minutes before leaving the house. My hands were sweating as I drove, my heart racing like I was in the middle of some spy movie. I spotted her car pulling into a coffee shop on the other side of town, not the grocery store. She parked, got out, and walked inside. A few minutes later, a man walked in after her. Tall, dark hair, dressed casually in jeans and a button-down shirt. Michael. I didn't even have to guess. I just knew. I sat there in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, watching through the window as they hugged. Not a friendly hug, a long, lingering hug that told me everything I needed to know. They sat down at a corner table, leaning in close, smiling like they were the only two people in the world. And right then, it hit me. My parents' love story wasn't perfect. It wasn't even real. It was all a lie. I drove home in silence that day. No music. No distractions. Just me, my thoughts, and the sound of my heart pounding in my ears like a ticking time bomb. The image of my mom hugging Michael replayed in my mind like a broken record. Every time I blinked, I saw her smiling at him the way she used to smile at Dad, maybe even more. By the time I pulled into our driveway, my hands were trembling on the steering wheel. My chest felt so tight I could barely breathe. I kept asking myself the same questions over and over again. What do I do now? Do I tell Dad? Do I confront Mom? Do I just pretend I never saw it? I wanted to tell myself to stay out of it, that it wasn't my business, but how could I? This wasn't just a minor family issue. This was my parents. The people who taught me what love meant, who built my entire idea of family. And now, it felt like everything they taught me was a lie. When I walked inside, Mom was in the living room folding laundry like nothing had happened. She looked up at me and smiled that same warm smile I had grown up with. Hey, sweetie. Did you get everything you needed for your dorm? I stared at her for a long moment, my throat burning with words I couldn't say. I wanted to scream. How could you do this? How could you betray Dad like this? But instead, I forced a smile and muttered, yeah, I did. I couldn't do it. Not yet. I needed answers first. That night, when everyone was asleep, I went back to the attic. I don't even know why. Maybe I wanted to feel in control, like I had some power in this chaos. I pulled out the box again and went through the letters, this time looking for something specific. And then, I found it. A photograph. It was tucked between two letters, slightly bent at the edges. It was of my mom and Michael, standing in front of what looked like a cabin in the woods. She wasn't just smiling, she was glowing, like I'd never seen her glow before. Her arm was around his waist. His hand rested on her shoulder. They looked happy. Too happy. The back of the photo had a date scribbled in blue ink. 3 years ago. 3 years. That wasn't some one-time mistake. This was a full-blown relationship. I shoved the photo back into the box, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. Tears blurred my vision as I whispered into the dark attic. Why, Mom? Why would you do this? I barely slept that night. My mind was spinning, my chest aching with anger and sadness and confusion. And when morning came, I made a decision. I was going to confront her. It happened at breakfast. Dad had already left for work, so it was just the two of us sitting at the kitchen table, eating in awkward silence. I stared at my cereal, my spoon trembling in my hand. Mom was scrolling through her phone, completely oblivious to the storm inside me. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. Who's Michael? The question came out sharper than I intended, slicing through the quiet like a knife. Mom froze. Her head snapped up, her eyes locking on mine. For a second, I saw something flicker across her face. Fear, maybe? Guilt? I don't know. Excuse me? She said, her voice calm, but her hands tightening around her coffee mug. You heard me. My voice was shaking now, but I didn't care. Who is Michael? She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her face went pale. And that's when I knew I was right. You've been seeing him, haven't you? My voice cracked, tears stinging my eyes. For years. I found the letters, Mom. I know everything. Her coffee mug slipped from her hands and shattered on the floor, but she didn't even flinch. She just stared at me, her lips trembling. Emily, she whispered. Please, don't you dare lie to me, I shouted, slamming my spoon down on the table. All this time, you've been pretending. You made me believe you and Dad were perfect. That love was real, and it was all a lie. Her eyes filled with tears, and for a second, I thought she was going to deny it. But she didn't. She just broke down. She covered her face with her hands and started sobbing. I never wanted you to find out like this, she choked out. I never wanted to hurt you. Hurt me? I laughed bitterly, my voice shaking. You didn't just hurt me, Mom. You destroyed everything I believed in. Do you even love Dad? Or has that been fake too? She shook her head violently. No. I love your father. I always have. But her voice trailed off, her sobs growing louder. But what, Mom? I screamed. What could possibly make this okay? And then, she said something that stopped me cold. Something I never expected. Because, Emily, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Your father isn't who you think he is. Those words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I just stared at her, my anger momentarily replaced by confusion. What are you talking about? I demanded. What do you mean he's not who I think he is? Mom looked at me with eyes so full of pain, so full of secrets, that it made my chest ache. Sit down, she said quietly, her voice trembling. There are things you don't know. Things I never wanted you to know. But if you're old enough to leave for college, you're old enough to hear the truth. I sank into my chair, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear anything else. What could she possibly mean? What was so terrible that she had to keep it hidden for all these years? I was about to find out. I didn't move. I couldn't. My body felt frozen in place, my heart racing so fast I thought I might pass out. Mom sat across from me, her hands trembling as she wiped tears from her cheeks. For a long time, the only sound in the kitchen was the faint hum of the refrigerator and her uneven breathing. Finally, she spoke. Emily, she said softly, everything you think you know about your father isn't the whole truth. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. What do you mean? Just tell me. She hesitated, her eyes darting to the window like she was afraid someone might overhear. Then she looked back at me, her voice barely a whisper. When I married your father, I thought I knew him. He was charming, dependable. Everything I ever wanted. And for a while, things were perfect. But then, she paused, her hands twisting in her lap. Then I started noticing things, little things, that didn't add up. I frowned. Like what? She took a shaky breath. Late night phone calls. Trips he said were for work, but his stories never quite made sense. Money disappearing from our accounts. When I asked questions, he'd brush them off or get angry. My stomach turned. This didn't sound like Dad, the man who always showed up to my school plays, who stayed up helping me with math homework, who kissed Mom on the cheek every morning before work. But Mom's voice was steady, her eyes glassy with tears. I wanted to believe him, she continued. I told myself he was just stressed, that work was hard. But then, I found out the truth. I gripped the edge of the table, my knuckles white. What truth? She met my eyes, and in that moment, I saw a kind of pain in her expression I'd never seen before. Your father was living a double life, she said, her voice cracking. He was involved with people he shouldn't have been. Dangerous people. He was hiding debts, making deals behind my back. And her voice trailed off as she looked away, tears spilling down her face. He wasn't always faithful, Emily. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. The air left my lungs in a rush, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. No, I whispered, shaking my head. No, that's not true. Dad would never. But deep down, something in me faltered. Because if my mom, the woman who adored him, was saying this, could it be true? He cheated on you? I asked, my voice barely audible. She nodded slowly. More than once. I tried to forgive him. For you. For our family. I wanted to keep things together so you'd never have to grow up in a broken home. I thought I could handle it. Until I met Michael. The name hit me like a slap. I wasn't looking for anyone, Mom said quickly, her voice trembling. But Michael. He was there for me in ways your father never was. He listened. He cared. And before I knew it, I fell in love with him. I pressed my hands to my temples, trying to process everything. My father, a cheater? A liar? The man I idolized? The man I thought was perfect? My world felt like it was collapsing around me. Why didn't you just leave him? I choked out. If he was so awful, why stay? Her face crumpled. Because I didn't want to ruin your life. You loved your father. You adored him. I couldn't take that away from you. I thought, if I could just keep things together until you were grown, it would be worth it. I stared at her, my mind spinning so fast it hurt. Everything I believed in, the love story I told my friends about, the example I wanted for my own future, it was all a lie. A carefully constructed illusion built on betrayal, secrets, and compromise. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The truth hung in the air like smoke, suffocating and bitter. Finally, I whispered, "Does Dad know about Michael?" Mom hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. "No," she said softly. "And he can't. If he finds out, it will destroy him. And us." I laughed bitterly, wiping at my tears. "Us? Mom, there is no us. Not anymore. Do you even hear yourself? You're asking me to keep your secret, to protect the man who cheated on you and the man you cheated with? Emily, please," she begged, her voice cracking. "I know this isn't fair to you. I know I've made mistakes. But I love you. Everything I've done, I did to protect you." I stood up so fast my chair screeched against the tile. "Don't say that. Don't pretend this was for me. You did this because you were unhappy. Because you wanted something else. And now you've ruined everything. Emily." "No." My voice shook with rage and heartbreak. "I can't even look at you right now." I grabbed my car keys and stormed out the door, ignoring her calls behind me. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. Through town, past the familiar streets I'd known my whole life, until I ended up at the old park where Dad used to take me when I was little. I parked under a tree and sat there, my hands gripping the steering wheel as sobs tore through me. I thought about all the nights I stayed up dreaming about finding love like my parents had. About how safe I felt knowing they were my example of what marriage should be. About the way Dad used to look at Mom like she was his entire world. Was it all fake? Or did he really love her once? Did she really love him? Or was it all just a show for me? And the worst part, the part that made me feel like I was drowning, was this. Who am I supposed to trust now? If my parents could lie so perfectly, then what does that say about love? About family? About everything I thought I knew? My phone buzzed. "Mom." Again. I ignored it. Then it buzzed again. A text this time. "Please come home. We need to talk. There's more you don't know." I stared at the screen, my tears blurring the words. More? What else could there possibly be? But deep down, I already knew. This wasn't over. Not even close. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the text message on my phone like it might somehow rewrite itself and make everything okay. But it didn't. The words stayed there, taunting me. "Please come home. We need to talk. There's more you don't know." I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to see her face, hear her voice, feel that crushing weight of betrayal all over again. But something deep inside me needed answers. If there was more to this nightmare, I had to know. By the time I pulled back into our driveway, the sun was starting to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was beautiful, so cruelly beautiful, considering how ugly everything felt inside me. Mom was waiting in the kitchen when I walked in. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying, her hands clutching a mug of tea she probably hadn't touched. For a moment, we just stared at each other. The silence between us was louder than any words could be. "Thank you for coming back," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Just tell me," I said flatly. "Whatever it is, just say it." She nodded slowly, taking a shaky breath before sitting down at the table. I didn't sit. I stayed standing, my arms crossed, like I needed some kind of armor to protect myself from whatever was coming next. "Emily," she began, "the truth is, your father isn't just hiding debts and bad decisions. He's hiding something much bigger. Something I've kept from you because I wanted to protect you from the pain." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" Her eyes met mine, and for a second, I saw that same look of pain I'd seen earlier, a look that said this wasn't just about an affair or a fight. This was something deeper. "Your father had another child," she said softly. The words slammed into me like a freight train. "What?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "A daughter," Mom continued, tears spilling down her cheeks. "She's a few years older than you. He had her before we were married, with another woman." I staggered back like I'd been hit. My chest burned. My legs felt like they might give out. "No," I choked out. "No, you're lying." "I wish I was," she said, sobbing now. "I found out years ago. At first, I thought I could live with it, that it didn't matter because it was before us. But then I learned he was still seeing her. He's been helping her, sending money behind my back. All these years." I sank into a chair, my head spinning so fast I thought I might throw up. Another child. My dad, my perfect, dependable dad, had a secret family? "And that's why I broke," Mom whispered. "I felt like our entire marriage was a lie. Like I wasn't enough. And then Michael came along, and for the first time in years, I felt loved. I know it doesn't excuse what I did. I know it was wrong. But now you know why." I couldn't even speak. My mouth opened, but no words came out. I just stared at her, my vision blurred with tears. "Does Dad know you know?" I finally managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. She shook her head. "No. I never told him. I thought about leaving, but I stayed for you. I wanted you to have a family, even if it was broken behind closed doors." I pressed my hands to my face, sobs shaking my body. Everything I believed about my life, about love, about trust, about family was gone. And then, as if the universe wasn't done destroying me, my phone buzzed again. I glanced at it through tear-streaked eyes, expecting another message from Mom earlier. But it wasn't. It was from an unknown number. "Emily, you don't know me, but we need to talk. I'm your sister." The phone slipped from my hand and clattered onto the table. Mom looked at me, her face pale as the blood drained from mine. "What is it?" she asked, panic in her voice. I couldn't answer. I just turned the phone so she could see the message. Her eyes widened, her hands flying to her mouth as the realization hit us both. This wasn't over. It was only the beginning. That night, I lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling, the weight of everything pressing down on me like a mountain. My mom's affair. My dad's betrayal. The sister I never knew existed. I thought about all the years I spent believing my parents were the perfect couple, the love story everyone dreamed of. And now, I realized something I never wanted to believe. There is no such thing as perfect. People lie. People cheat. People keep secrets, even from the ones they love most. But as much as it hurt, as much as it broke me, I also knew this. I wasn't going to let their mistakes define me. Their lies weren't my lies. Their broken love wasn't going to break me. Because maybe forever doesn't exist. Maybe perfect doesn't exist. But honesty? Choice? That does. And I was going to build a life where love wasn't about illusions, but about truth. Even if it hurt. Even if it meant starting over.